Good afternoon, good morning, good night, wherever you are. Hi, my name is Marilyn Shannon, and I am delighted and honored to be here with you today. And we're going to have a wonderful show. And before we get started, I just want to say hi to Amnon. So, Amnon,
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I am just fine.
So, Amnon is the man. He produces our show.
Um,
He takes care of everything. He's
I try.
good. Oh, you are good at it, and you are a good buddy. Everything's good.
Everything is just fine.
Good. Ready for turkey?
Ready for turkey.
Turkey. Are you cooking?
Kathy is.
Oh, of course. Good. Well, I'm not cooking a turkey either. Guess what I'm in charge of?
You're going somewhere.
Going to my
Oh,
daughter's.
smart.
Oh, it's wonderful. And guess what I'm in charge
My
of?
daughter is working.
Oh, she is.
Yeah, I mean that's a big day
It's
over
a
at
big
Arthur's.
Oh yeah, it's a big day. She waits
Yeah.
tables at a restaurant, local restaurant called Irregardless. But I am in charge of hors d'oeuvres and a signature drink. And every year I do a signature drink, a fun drink, and it's fun. I love it. So anyway, let's get on with our show. So our title of our show is Breaking Free. So what does that mean? What does freedom mean to you? And each and every week we bring people on our stage to share a tool, a strategy, a technique, a philosophy, an idea, a moment when they broke free from something. You break free, you get free from doing something. And it's a journey. And so every week, somebody on our stage comes in and talks about something that when we listen, and when we listen hard or easy sometimes, because it comes naturally, we get it. And that allows us to do something different, freeing, break free from something. So now I'm going to introduce my guest to you today. I'm very excited because she's a dear friend and she's an author and a speaker, and she's going to tell you everything that she does. So welcome to our stage, Annalise Gentile. Hey!
Hello!
Hug.
I want to know about your signature drink.
Well,
what's in it?
This week, this year, well, let's see. Last year it had something to do, I think, vodka. The year before it was tequila. This year it's bourbon. So it has to be simple and it has to be able to be made quick. And I like a little bourbon and a little grapefruit juice. So I found a drink called the Brown Derby. And the Brown Derby is made with bourbon, grapefruit juice, and a little honey.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, it sounds good, doesn't it?
It sounds freeing.
Yeah, it sounds very creamy and lovely.
I love
And so
it.
we will have a drink.
Nice.
So, and you, what are you doing for the holidays?
We are going to the mountains with our family. It's the first time we're all going to be together. 10 people in one house.
And which mountain?
Independence, Virginia. So something new. Something new.
Oh, it's great.
And you know what?
Good.
We're not doing a turkey this year because it's a traveling experience. We're going to do a pork loin. But everybody is still contributing. We're all going to be a part of the making together. We're going to do a lot of pre-designed foods so that we're spending more time together and less time on prep, less time on cleaning, less time on thinking, lots of pre-planning,
more time
pre-thinking.
On being thankful.
Oh, yeah. And you know what else we do is we have a gratitude sharing, and everyone collects sticks and branches and leaves. We put that in the center, and then everyone has some leaves on their placemat, and a pen, gold pens. And so we write what we're grateful for on the leaf and then tie it to the branch so that at the end, after we've all gone around, there's a centerpiece that we've collectively created in the moment with what we're grateful for.
So do you know the toy store? There's a huge, beautiful toy store here. I'm sure it's everywhere. I can't remember what it's Learning Express. Learning Express has a turkey that you can buy. It's like a toy, and it comes with leaves that you write things on, and you can put it on the turkey, and you can reuse it every year.
How interesting!
It's a really cool thing.
Very interesting.
Very cool.
I don't know. I kind of like to go on natural. Keep things very simple.
Good. So now so here is Annalise's book. Okay. Can you see it, y'all? All right. From chaos to calm. Talk about it.
Leading change from the inside out.
So tell us first who you are.
Well, my name's Annalise, and I'll speak to your audience. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you today. No matter where you are around the world, I am an integrative life and leadership coach, and I help professionals navigate change. What is that? It's to move from a state of chaos to calm. It's a moment in time where what was is no longer. What do we do with that? We have to be creative. We have to be mindful. So I work with professionals, organizations, teams, and help them slow down, become more mindful about what's going on now in the process, and to create what's new. To help them get out of their head.
None of us are in our heads. So listen, just remember, anytime during the show, you are more than welcome to call in and talk to us at 919-518-9773, or you can come in on Skype, and that will be in voice, not video. So you don't care what you wear, no makeup. Anyway, you can come in at computers, and that's plural, then the number 2K voice anytime you like. And then we also have a chat. If you notice right next to the video, if you put your name, nickname is fine, and you can come in there, ask questions, comment, just chat away with us. We'd love to have you. So the book, what's the book about?
It's about cultivating resiliency in times of change.
And resiliency means what?
It's about rebounding, and not just rebounding as in becoming what you were before the chaos, but to creatively move through change as it happens.
So is chaos systematic, or is it, can you just live in a state of chaos, or is it situational?
Well, it's a very good question, because I think one of our problems is that most people don't know they're in chaos, and it's a state of existence for most people, and they're used to it.
What does it look
like? It could look very messy for many people.
It can look a lot of different ways.
Yeah. However, it can also look extremely organized. It could look extremely well put together, but it's not.
So for somebody who doesn't know what it looks like, what does organized chaos look like? Because I know, like my hair, that is organized chaos, and I like it that way. But in a life, maybe not so much.
Right.
So what does it look like?
Well, let's get a little clearer around chaos is important to the expression of life. And I get a little heady in the book, very science-based as well. And the fundamentals have to do with entropy. That life is constantly falling apart as it is creating itself. And the same thing goes for us. So what is organized chaos? It's a very interesting question, because your perception creates your experience,
Right.
and your experience creates your reality. So whatever information you have mixed with the filter of what you think things should be, create your understanding of what your chaos or non-chaos is in the moment. So even the word organized is a construct.
So how do you know if you're in chaos?
You have to understand about the indicators. And stress is one of those indicators. It's the stress response. And so I share in my book, it might take me a moment to crack it open, but I share in my book what I call the chaos to calm stress scale. And it is not just an internal experience, it's also an external experience. And so I have a chart that I've created called the chaos to calm stress scale. And I also put in this book, fill it in with my own experiences, and then give you a blank one so that you can fill it in yourself. And those who could buy the book on Kindle can download their own copy. But essentially, from a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being chaos and 1 being calm, measuring can happen. It's sort of like measuring creativity. Like, how do you measure that? How do you measure stress? And for me, it took me 3 years to fill in this chart.
So let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
So are you measuring the things you feel, or are you measuring things that are stressful?
Well, it's a very good question, because it's both. It's the internal experience of how is stress showing up. For instance, is your mouth dry? Is your heart racing? Are you blinking a lot or not blinking? Do you have to go to the bathroom and you're not? Are you anxious? Are you not sleeping? These experiences that we have in our body. And then there's the external world. How is your desk? How is your car? How is your relationships? How is your language? How is your finances? And then way outside of that could even be what I call the environmental influence, which is way outside of ourselves. So in the beginning of the book, I talk about the emergence pattern, which is something that I've created, which has to do with how we relate to the world. And there's our internal experience, what I call the personal influence, and then the social influence, and then the environmental influence.
And one thing to pay attention to with stress is that it's not always the big stresses that you know are stressful. It's the little stresses that eat you up over time. So even though you might say, well, you go to the grocery store and they don't have what's on the shelf and you feel a little pang, but you let it go. That is a little stress that I am talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It is not just, your car breaking down and you're on your way to a big thing. It's those little stresses too, and those little stresses are the ones that go undiscovered and that will kill you.
Mm.
So understand that.
Well, I think we have a little death along the way. There's the little d death, and then there's the big death. And so when you specifically talk about stress along the way, I have a chapter a little bit further back in the book where I talk about hidden grief. Now, hidden grief is where the little changes of life that happen along the way, if we don't take time to clean house, both internally and externally, it builds. And that building and building not only creates a heaviness that I call a hidden grief, because it is grief around, well, what's changing around our body, around our country, around our culture, around our state of democracy, around our state of understanding of who we are as a human species. It's big,
Yeah.
but it's also very, very small, very tiny, very minute. And if we don't check in and release, let go, let be, and let in, then that changes us. And so chaos, going back to your original question, organized chaos, one, who's organizing it? Two, what does that mean? And three, for the sake of what?
Right.
For the sake of what is organized chaos important? Well, I think at the end, it has to do with understanding how much chaos are we personally experiencing, how much of it isn't really ours to take in.
That is a big.
And then how much of it is actually really a part of the process.
Right. And here's the thing that maybe another thing we have to mention is we don't get an award for how much we think we're supposed to handle. That is not the game, I don't think. And that is not easy to break from. It is listening to what other people might think or what other people are capable of doing. If somebody is capable of doing this, it doesn't mean you have to do it exactly the same way because you have capabilities that maybe they don't have or they don't focus on having. So we have to monitor our scale and getting to know ourselves. And I really liked what you said about the grief because every time we have to let something go, even when it's tiny, we're mourning something.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And so that's a big deal.
You're exactly
And we
right.
don't talk about it.
Well, we don't. And
we don't talk about it.
And I mentioned that too. When I talk about hidden grief is that when something dies, a pet dies, a parent dies, you have a car accident and your car dies that you've loved for 10 years, that's paid off, or that your house burns down because, that also has been paid off. It seems obvious to grieve these things because there was something and now that something is gone. And everyone that's around you that knows is, oh, I'm sorry that you lost your mother. That's obvious. Well, what about when you notice on one particular day that you go to the grocery store and someone who you think is cute doesn't look at you? And you think, well, gosh, is it because I'm fat? Is it because I'm old? Is it because they don't like my haircut? Is there something about me that's different? Well, one day you're different, but it's over time that happens. Same thing on the much larger scale of the environmental influence. We're going through life, we vote, and then one day democracy is different. What does that mean? Or one day our cultural understanding of something is different. Or one day the quality of our food is different. Little tiny changes over time. We're in a new place.
So chaos is a form of, or is confusion a form of chaos, or is chaos a form of confusion?
Well, let me preface it by number one, chaos is vital to life.
We're supposed to have.
Chaos is vital to life. Something new can't grow without chaos happening. It's key. So for instance, if any of you at home garden, and maybe you don't, but just consider this. If you have fruit, you leave it out on your table a day, nothing happens. You don't notice much. 2 days, you don't notice. Maybe fruit flies. Day 3, day 4, day 5, a week later, if you haven't eaten that banana, it's brown. 2 weeks later, it's getting mushy. If you don't put it into your compost, we have a problem. But we also have a solution, because over time, that compost becomes soil. And then over time, the soil becomes nutrients for something else. And something will grow in that soil. So we're at a time on both the individual, what I call the personal influence scale, the social influence scale, and the environmental influence scale. We have to change our relationship with chaos. We have to embrace what's falling apart, because what's falling apart is going to provide something new. But if we're not paying attention, if we're numb, if the relationship with stress is so high and we're so used to this being our state of being, we can't pay attention to the nuances that tell us the difference between, is this a moment to create something new? Or is this a moment to let go? What's happening? But instead, most people are blind. They're shut off. They're numb. They're exhausted. And they're not paying attention. So this is a call to pay attention.
So it's a call to not avoid. It's a call not to fear.
Correct.
Chaos or change.
Correct.
Or anything like that. And it's a call to it's a call to come forward.
You were going to say
arms, but it's I'm not sure I like saying it that way. I have to think of a different way of saying it.
Share
well,
it
I
again.
don't know if I a call to arms. It's an impression I have, and I don't know if I like the picture of that.
Tell me about the picture.
Well, the picture is of a bunch of people standing around with guns, and I don't like that impression. Well, that's what it conjures, but nonetheless, it's a time to see what, and it's not where things are out of whack. It's a time of change, and things can look chaotic when they're changing from one thing that you're accustomed to, or a bunch of things, to a bunch of things you're not.
Let me see if my metaphor meets your metaphor with more usefulness.
Yeah.
Is that when I hear a call to arms, I say, yes, what does this mean to you? And you say, well, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah,
there's a resistance, right?
Yeah.
So my nudge and my request is, okay, that's interesting. So what are you arming? And this is where I say, what if the call to arms is actually a call of radical creativity, radical acceptance, call to action?
But
call for action of what? Because I absolutely believe that we're in a state where action is not first. Noticing is first, right? Because I think that we are in a numb first, then act culture. And so then we act and go, oh, excuse me, can I say, oh shit, what did I do?
Thrown off the air.
Right?
I might get a complaint. I've handled that.
Do you have like a little thing?
No.
Where it's a little censor?
No,
uncensored. Okay.
It's good.
So we're in a numb first, then react, then try to fix culture. And that creates chaos. So my call and request is A, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to fix. It's just a state of noticing first. But the only way you can notice is first to take stock. And then when you start to notice, well, then we start to realize, wow, there's a lot of stuff here. I got to notice.
Right.
There's a lot.
Right. And for me, noticing is a listening, because a noticing is receiving something. So anytime you're receiving, which is everything, you're listening. So
in listening is only saying one thing with the one senses. And I'm a believer that there's 6, including your intuition. So I mean a whole system noticing.
Right.
So that goes down to understanding your stress is actually not bad for you. Stress is useful, but it's a language. It's a language. So, for instance, if you worked for the part of the government that monitors earthquakes, there's little sensors all around the world, sensing. What's going on? How close are we? Is it now? Is it almost now? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? So we have to be our own monitors of our tiny little earthquakes, because the big one's coming. What's the big one? It could be you get sideswiped. The unintended trigger events is what happens when nature's doing what it's doing.
Well,
it's moving towards entropy at all times. Yep. You never know. But there's also the trigger events that we build up. Unnecessary stress that collects over time.
And that is, what do you think?
That is unique to you.
What is it for you?
I got a whole book on that. But
well, give us an example of what would be an unnecessary stress for you.
You know, this is really basic. What's the first thing I did when I came here to your studio? Before that?
Had a drink.
No. I said, gosh, it's hot.
Oh, yeah.
Then I took my coat off. Mm-hmm. Then I said, where's your bathroom? Went to the bathroom. I noticed immediately. And before I walked in, I sprayed my hair. I fluffed, I sprayed, and I made sure there was a tissue close by, because I'm allergic to hairspray.
Well, what do you make of that?
After doing hair and makeup on Broadway for God knows how many years, I'm so allergic to my own stuff. Right. So I have my own allergies going on,
right?
But I took care of my personal sphere. Am I warm enough? Am I cool enough? Am I hydrated enough? Did I go to the bathroom? Basics.
So where's the stress in there?
Are you kidding me?
No, I mean seriously.
Yeah.
Is it in the beginning? I mean, did you experience? So are you saying that when you walked in and noticing that it was hot in here,
on a scale of 1
stressor?
to 10, with 10, yeah,
okay,
absolutely. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I noticed it was about a 7 in heat in here. Now I love warmth. But I also know that under lights and under filming, I certainly don't want to be sweating. And I know that under stressful circumstances, I might get warm. So warm on top of warm is not good for camera. I've worked in film. I know.
So y'all need to pay attention to what a trigger is for you, because what a trigger is for you, like I'm hearing her say that, and I wouldn't experience it that way. So I'm questioning it, but I could experience something in a different way. So it's not about right or wrong.
Correct.
It's about different and how, and just knowing yourself. And that is very, very key in whatever it is that you do. And you wanted to say something.
I was going to say that at least minimize the stress. I mean, she
took care of herself
out of it,
right,
before she went on the air.
Absolutely.
And what was the final thing I did before we even hit start?
Give me a dirty look.
No, I had 5 almonds.
Because your stomach was
my stomach was going to growl. I noticed. So here's the thing about stress. It's related to the limbic system, the amygdala in the back of the brain. It's looking for patterns all the time, and it's looking for 3 patterns. Is it safe? Like, is this a safe environment? I noticed the barking of a dog. Immediately, I got a little stressed. I thought, 1, I'm allergic to animals. 2, do I have to touch it? 3, I don't like them. I'm not an animal, not a non-animal person, but I have my allergies, and I don't like dogs because my sister got bit in the eye once. I had a whole experience. So 1, is it safe? 2, can I eat it? The body wants to know, can I eat it? Is it safe to eat? And 3, can I mate with it? The limbic system is simply looking for those 3 things. We can intellectualize until the cows come home. But at the end of the day, whether we are voting, choosing what we want to have for lunch, choosing what we want to wear, our body is looking for 3 safe zones. Is it safe? Can I eat it? Is it going to sustain me? And can I mate with it? That's it. Everything else is fluff. So basics. When dealing with stress, yes, it's going to be unique to you because you might like it a little bit warmer, or you might like it a little bit colder, or you might think that you can hold your bladder a little bit longer than someone else. But at the end of the day, it's basic. Stress response is basic. Basic.
And what do you mean by basic?
Just said.
No, but define basic for me. What do you mean by basic?
It has to do with the human body's needs.
Why is that basic?
Because it doesn't get much more complicated than that.
So, okay, so I think what I hear you say is that your needs, that we sometimes we tend to make things sometimes bigger than they are.
Yes, ma'am.
And so the needs that we have to take care of ourselves is natural and basic.
Yes.
And for me, I would say when we listen to our body, when we listen to what our needs are, when we hear the call to action, or for whatever reason, when we hear that twinge, or we hear the experience we have from a previous experience, then we know that this is something that we have to take care of. For you, walking in here was hot. You know that you're going to sweat and it's going to be uncomfortable. For me, it's driving at night. I don't see well.
Is
And
it
so,
safe?
Yeah.
It goes back. Is it
I'm
safe?
like, and last night I had to go out. I had to. I went out for dinner with my sister-in-laws, and one of my sister-in-laws said, "I'm driving you back."
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, and you know what? Immediately, guess what I said? Yes, thank you. I didn't even have to think about it a second because history tells me that it's scary for me. And the fact that she said it, I was immediately like, okay. Because in the past, I might have like said, oh, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. No more. So so that basic need to have somebody drive me was cool.
So
hold on one second. I just want to remind everybody to feel free to call in. I haven't said it in the last few moments, but please do.
I want to talk to you.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. So you got questions. We may not have all the answers, but we can certainly conjure up a lot of conversation.
That's right.
919-518-9773. Or you can come in on computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice on Skype. And we have a lovely chat. You can come in there, just put your name under our video and ask us questions there, comment, whatever you like. But we'd love to hear from you.
I'm going to put this into perspective. When it comes down to stress, I've been to 22 countries, been to 47 of the US states, 48. And I have determined that there's only 3 things that everybody in the world actually strives for. And that's to have a sense of safety, to be heard, and have a sense of belonging. Safety, heard, belonging. Anything beyond that is just an expression of those things. What fractions us, what breaks us, what causes more conflict and more chaos is the interpretation of what we think the right thing is
Mhm.
under those things. And so stress is enhanced when I think that my way is your way. So, for instance, imagine you were at you said your sister's house or your sister-in-law?
We
Sister-in-law.
went to a restaurant. Bunch of us.
You're at the restaurant and you have to drive home. And nobody knows this because you didn't vocalize it. So to be heard, let's say you didn't vocalize it. And
Which
you
I
know,
did, actually.
and you did. But you've learned along
No,
the way.
I've
So
learned. Oh my God,
imagine
I was
you didn't.
honest.
And
Yeah.
here you are, you're having dinner, and the whole time you're watching the
That's
sun
exact,
set,
right?
and your heart is starting to beat, and you're having a conversation,
That's right.
and your stress is increasing. And
Exactly.
then the sun sets, dinner is almost over, someone says something to you, and you bite their head off. And they go, Marilyn, why did you do that? You say, you know what? I'm just sick and tired of being here right now. Whatever it is, you go from a 5 to a 10. They think it's them. You don't know what the heck it is because you're worried about driving in the dark.
Most misunderstandings are the cause of something that has nothing to do with the misunderstanding. What is in the immediate. Most of it's about something in the past.
And so that's why stress is a language that is universal, but for you, it's driving at night. For Amnon, what are you stressed about? What gets you most stressed?
Power goes out.
Yeah.
Because
we have a lot of power, but I have a generator. So
but that's gone out.
the
trouble.
It's gone.
Right.
But that's one thing. I'm not worried about anything.
Mm-hmm. Can't wait to have more conversation with you. I bet there's a lot in there.
Well, maybe
We all
but
do.
I don't think about it. I'm stressed because I'm thinking all the time about the daughter driving. What if something? You know, you sort of like you can't help. It's part of life.
Oh, there's your microphone.
There you go. Oh my goodness!
No, I mean, there are stressing points in life that I don't think you even pay attention to the fact that they're stressing you. It just becomes a way of life. You're worried about it, and it becomes a way of life. It's just like in Israel when people are, bombing and everything, and people keep going. It's a way of life.
So it's yes.
Well, it brings up a really good question: is at what point is a particular stressor a way of life, and at what point is a particular stressor something that's being ignored?
Well, I think
what's the difference between ignoring and accepting that this is what it is?
Well, the more you understand all of this,
good question,
and
right?
study, yes, and the more you study this and you realize how you're feeling about something, if you get inside of yourself, like you're coming into heat, and you could ignore it, or you remember the flash feeling you had.
I just thought about a dog going into heat.
It's
I know what you meant.
It's a flash feeling that you have.
She's female.
Okay. I was like, where's she going with this?
So, right. You never know where I'm going to go with anything because, as we said earlier, we are not part of the normal network.
That's
we can do whatever we
We're
want.
free to say whatever we want
which
to.
is what I like about it. So, if you have a feeling, like a flash feeling, a memory of something that's painful, you may not want to ignore it. But here's the thing: sometimes it's a matter of just looking at it and saying, "Oh, this is where it came from. This is somebody else's." Like I have a thing. I say, "Whose fear are you fearing anyway?" Because a lot of fears are not ours; they're learned. Whose stress are you stressing over anyway? It may not be your stress. It may have been somebody else's stress, but it's grown into you. It's grown like a bug inside of you. And it's part of maybe my job with me, your job with you, to say, I really don't feel bad about that. I really don't have to feel bad about that. And work with it. Then you're not ignoring it, you're paying it attention and you're moving on. Because there are some times there are things that will get you. Caution. You could be crossing the street and cars are coming. So you have caution. You look left, you look right. You don't just go straight and just like hope for the best. So, life is full of chaos. Life is full of things happening. It's how we look at it and what we do with it that helps us get to calm, right? How quickly do you get out of chaos and stress to calm?
You bring up a really good point around getting out of chaos. And I want people to realize when going through this book, sometimes we have to walk towards the edge.
Absolutely.
And I mean that in an individual sense and in
Absolutely.
a collective sense, because
Absolutely.
creativity resides at the edge of chaos.
Absolutely.
Creativity resides at the edge of chaos.
A lot of things do.
And I'll just sort of imagine. So here's the edge.
Mhm.
If we are moving away from the edge, you can have a sense of calm because you feel like I feel secure and I'm safe. Too far away from the edge, you have stagnation. Too far away from the edge of the cliff of chaos, you have stagnation. But when you get to the edge, right at the edge, you can access creativity. If you fly off the edge or drop off the edge without any mindfulness, then you have chaos. But there's got to be this dance between chaos and edginess, which gives us imagination, innovation, a new paradigm, a new construct, and new resources.
Yep.
Because you've got to let go in order to create something new completely.
Absolutely. Let's see. Chris has a question, and,
I'm ready.
There's a fabulous quote, and I can't remember what it is. Maybe Chris can post it in the chat for me. It's on my website, and it's about the fact of part of what I feel like my job is as a coach is to gently push somebody to the edge so they can fly. Chris, if you can look on the dialogue website, maybe you'll see it. I can't remember what it is, but she's asking, how does extreme stress or trauma factor into the conversation about chaos and moving to calm?
Great question. So thank you, Chris, for writing in. How does extreme stress and trauma factor in to the relationship with chaos to calm? Number one, if you've had something difficult that you've gone through, and sometimes, such as refugees, I am a volunteer for the Center for U.S. Refugees and Immigrants, and I'm also a family mentor. And what I've learned is that people who are educated, had wonderful lives, careers, houses, income, lose everything to war. And they're having to start from scratch. And yesterday, I gave one of my books to one of the mentor families who was an educated lawyer. She had a practice, business, car, family, house, and her entire life changed. And she held my book and she said, "You give me hope because I feel like there's something that I can do with what I've been through." So let's pause and consider that trauma is difficult. I'm not saying that it's great. What I'm saying is that it can be useful because there are horrible tragedies that people have and go through that nobody deserves. And yet, it is the expression of life that for things to transform, they have to go through a birthing process. Something has to die for something new to happen. As a matter of fact, the lotus flower actually blooms and flourishes in stagnant waters, almost like putrid waters. So I invite you to look at tragedy, loss, chaos as resource, because it's the thing in between the next thing. Does that make sense? Sort of the space between notes of what was hardship, and it happened. Maybe it was self-created. Maybe it was something that you didn't expect to happen, an unexpected trigger event, but it was a difficult tragedy. But it can provide resource. It can provide the next step. So ask of yourself or of this thing, what did I learn in the presence of this hardship? What am I becoming as a result of this thing happening? Because it can fuel the expression of something else, because life moves in cycles, it moves in circles, it moves in movement. It's not a linear path. It's not this thing and then this thing and this thing. It's self-similar at every scale. It's an emergence. So the butterfly, the tadpole, they were something, and then they became something completely different. Their entire body changed. The chemistry changed for that thing to happen. So tragedy does that to us. Loss does that to us. Chaos does that to us. It completely transforms us. But we can get stuck in the cocoon as we're trying to keep what was the same, or because we're feeling pain. Find the resources around you, whether it's a coach, a counselor, a therapist. Do creative work, do energetic work, do standard work, do training around it. Try to understand what was, get really clear about the details of this thing happened, not the story about the thing, but the thing, and then create with what you've learned. Thank you for your question.
I
hope that answers it,
Yeah,
Chris.
it was a very good answer. So it's not to say that you sit back and go, things happen for the best. Okay?
Right.
But when things do happen,
Mm.
then you take a look at it and go, okay, now what? And I've recently
Let me put into
interviewed.
one
Go
little
ahead.
statement, is that for the sake of what can this thing that happened be valuable to me? For the sake of what can this be valuable?
I've interviewed several people lately for upcoming books. I've interviewed 2 women lately who both have survived rape. And what they have done from those points is exactly what we're talking about. The first woman I interviewed couldn't even feel her body
Mm.
any longer. Her body was completely numb. The work she did to feel her body, first of all, to recognize she wasn't feeling her body, and then to begin to feel her body, was such magnificent work, step by step, bit by bit, to unnumb herself to the point where the beauty that comes out of her mouth and the things that she looks at is it's just awe. And then the next woman I interviewed recently, a similar experience, and now the point of giving back and of supporting people. And here's the quote, and Chris just put it here. As I mentioned earlier, there's a really great quote about going to the edge, and we're talking about going to the edge, and because that's where the learning happens.
Mhm.
So this is the quote, and it's, "Come to the edge," he said. They came, he pushed them, and they flew. That is the quote. And that is exactly what we do for ourselves as well.
Mm.
We can push ourselves to the edge. Just push a little bit, and then you fly. And what does flying mean? Flying means you didn't fall over and never pick yourself up. Flying means an aha. Flying means some recognition, some light from change, something. Flying means freedom, and you feel it when you can acknowledge it. Just once again, please feel free. We have some time left. Love to hear from you. Anybody with an experience that you want to share, anything about any of what we're talking about. And if you don't want to talk about what we're talking about, you want to, it's something that we talked about, brought something else up for you, love to have you call in for that as well. Did you
I'm
have something
so
to say?
interested in the questions.
Okay, calm.
Yes.
Let's talk about the feeling of, what does calm feel like to you?
Calm for me is where there's space to breathe. And calm does not necessarily mean that calm is what's around.
Well, okay, yes, I can
So,
understand that.
so I use the most heightened experiences of chaos to help me cultivate calm. I'm not fond of crowds or lines or loud noises. So I use those experiences to take a deep breath. And 3 deep breaths can change the relationship between fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
and homeostasis,
Yep.
which is a state of calm.
It's
Where
like balance.
Well, and I even talk about in the book that I think balance is hooey. I really think balance is hooey. And the reason why is because there's this craving to have balance as if it's a place to get to, but it's like a mirage. Because the more you strive to get there, the more the origin of where you think you have to get to changes.
Well, and I think
It's
it depends
bullshit.
on what you look at as balance.
Sorry.
Because balance is not something you just look at in a moment. Balance is something that you can look at you can look at it any way you want. You can look at it over the week. You can say, God, I'm really busy Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But Thursday and Friday, I'm taking off. That creates balance. So it depends on what you look at as balance and whatever message it is sending. Because remember, we ourselves give the words that surround us our meaning. They are our meaning. So whether balance is the same for you as it is for me, who cares? If balance creates a feeling for you and you like it, it's fine. If it does the same thing for me or something different, it's fine. What we can learn from each other and our experiences and our stories is pivotal. So always do your best to share your stories as much as you can, little by little, or take in somebody else's, because that helps build something inside of it. It builds resilience, which is where we started. Resilience, the way of bouncing between chaos and calm and chaos again.
Bouncing, I reject that word. I think that's actually some of our problem
Is bouncing
versus movement. Movement.
Well, again,
is a
that's
very
that's just like what I said
big.
with arms, and you said you have a different thing. That's fine. Everybody, to me, bouncing isn't a bad thing. To
No.
you, may not. You reject it for you, but for me, I don't.
Well, I
For
think
me, it's a good. I don't mind. I can handle a bounce. I can handle saying, today's going to be one thing, tomorrow's going to be something else. I don't have a bad feeling attached to that. And that's the thing. You got to have your own experiences and things. How does it feel to you? You check in with yourself. It's personal. This is not a catch-all. These are, it's not a catch-all.
Can I share
yeah,
a little?
Yeah, go right ahead.
This is where I share in the book. It's called Part 3, Integration. And starts with a quote by Albert Einstein. Look deep into nature, and then you will understand everything better. In the West, we tend to focus on the fight against cancer, the fight against poverty, fight against terrorism, fight against hunger, fight against Democrats and Republicans. We want to turn away what's bad, kill the pain. Ancient and indigenous healing functions in terms of oneness, purification, movement. All the elements in nature also exist in you. And in many ways, from our biology to our chemistry to our experience of life itself, humans function like the seasons of the natural world. We have our own stages and phases of emergence. An integrative approach to life includes all aspects that support the wholeness of life and death. An integrative approach works to address all areas of change because it includes all stages of life at its core. Max Planck, the German theoretical physicist considered to be the founder of quantum theory, said, "Science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because in the last analysis, we are ourselves a part of the mystery that we are trying to solve."
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
And we
are
don't know
part of-
what we don't know
we don't know.
until we look.
We don't
And
know.
when we look at something, it changes.
And then we look at it again.
Yes, and it changes again.
Everything is changing. Everything. It's a one thing you can guarantee is change. Right? What are you going to say?
No, I was going to say, you're talking about a calm and you're talking about something that you strive in, and I can see how it can be stress versus the calm. If you ask me what time it is, and I am a micromanager, oh, it is 1:50, 1:39. No, so 40, 41. No, 40,
Constantly
43.
changing.
And you can't get to it and you're stressing. But if you just say 1:40 and everything is fine, you're not looking at, you realize that thing is changing and you're not going to express it because you can't.
You know what? Think about this too. It's kind of like this time of year. It's a given. There's going to be lines. It's going to be traffic. There's a lot of stuff going on. So going into, if you're going to go shopping today, tomorrow for Thanksgiving, just know you're going to be waiting on a line. There's no point in going and not imagining that. So you prepare yourself for it. For me, I might sit online and listen to a book while I'm waiting to pay for my groceries.
I do yoga while I'm online.
Do you?
Yeah. I call it the breathing yoga. So
yeah,
I stand in line and I notice my feet in my shoes. And I say, okay, one, how do my feet feel? And then I breathe from the bottom of my feet. I just imagine that I can breathe right through here. And I use being on the line as a moment to meditate. Sometimes I breathe 3 breaths. Sometimes it's 5. Sometimes it's much longer. Like the other day when I was in traffic from the Christmas parade, it was like an hour I was in gridlock. I did a lot of breathing. But I use moments of chaos as an invitation.
Absolutely.
Do you know the film Sully?
Yes.
About the pilot.
I didn't see it, but I know
who landed a plane in the Hudson River.
Yes.
So imagine the difference between the passengers that were in the plane, what stress was like for them, and the pilots, what stress was like for them. So stress for the passengers was chaotic, the unknown. They didn't know how and what to use their stress at all. It was untethered. For the pilots, and I watched the documentary on it, he says, Pilot Sully says, you don't know what you're used to until you look. And he said, I've been trained to use my stress to apparently land a plane in the Hudson River. What are we used to? What are we used to? We don't know until we look.
Yeah, and it's real, and that's a very good statement because obviously if I was behind the wheel trying to land that plane, my stress would not let me think. Right? But his put him in a position. So the more stress you have, the less you can think.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. The more stress you have, providing you know what to do with it.
That's different. But if you live in a state of stress and you're living in stress without knowing what to do with it,
that's different.
It can be difficult to creatively problem solve your way out of it the longer you're in it. So the more work you do on those stresses, the more you have access to your intuition and to be able to creatively problem solve an alternative. So it's again, It's everybody's level is different. So nobody can tell you. This is an inside job. And that's very important to notice.
Well, look at it like this. Electricity, when tethered and harnessed, can give you this show. If we had wild, unfree, untethered electricity and we touched it, we'd get electrocuted. Stress is the same thing as creative energy. It's the same thing. Creativity and stress is the same thing. It's energy. What are you using it for? Are you using it to self-destruct, destruct others, or dismantle? Or are you using it to create, to imagine, to invite others to go along on a journey? It's the same thing. It's just energy. The difference is how it's packaged, how it's used, and how it's thought about. And that takes time to develop. So if you haven't explored tools to utilize this amazing resource of energy, then do so. And I'm glad you're here.
Why don't you take a moment and, well, before you do that, you have my book. Okay, so just so you all know, okay, I have 2 books on Amazon. In just
Great
one
books.
afternoon, thank you. In just one afternoon, listening to Hearts of Men, and then in one afternoon, listening to Hearts of Twins. Men, of course, listen to the hearts of men on their journey, in and out of situations, life. And twins, they are a phenomenal role model in how to get along, individuality, conflict, sibling rivalry, parenting. Great information with the twins. Next one up is going to be in just one afternoon, listening to the hearts of millennials, which I'm hoping will be done in January. And I'm asking for anyone who has any experience with the opioid disorder, whether you've recovered, you're struggling to recover, or you are a family member. That will be the 4th. So please connect with me at Marilyn at MarilynShannon.com. I would love to have the opportunity to interview you about your story. So you either having had experience in, surviving, not surviving, struggling, any of those, or a family member, please reach out to me. Okay, now tell everybody where they will find you and what they will find when they find you. Here you go.
From chaos to calm, leading change from the inside out. It's about cultivating resiliency in times of change. You can find it on Amazon. You're also welcome to look at my website, which is conduitforchange.com. Conduitforchange.com. Right now, it's online for $16.99 until January 1st, 2019. And then it's going to go up to $22.
Amazon?
It is on Amazon. And if this inspires you, invite me to come share. I'll come to your place of business, your home. Let's have a conversation. Collect some people together and we'll have a chat. I'm really glad to put this out in the world. I think it's timely that when we're going through chaos, we need to remember how to be resilient and how to move through it creatively and mindfully. Annalise, your conduit for change.
All right, everyone. So reach out to her, ask her questions. You're not on Facebook. What are you on?
I'm not on Facebook.
You're on.
There's a whole chapter on that.
Yeah, you're on LinkedIn.
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Look on LinkedIn and follow Annalise. I'm sure you'll be delighted. You'll get some really great information, and it's fun.
And I also offer a newsletter. So if someone wants to come to my website, feel free to join my newsletter.
Good. It's fun when you recognize something. It was fun last night when I asked for help. It is fun. It is fun when you ask for help, and with something that it's so easy to ask for help, and it's so easy, and people love to help. So remember that. And this time of year, have a wonderful, 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 wonderful holiday. I find something, anything. And there's so many things to be grateful for. Just the fact you get in your car and it goes, that you wake up and you have that first breath, anything. It's a time for love. So with that, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you. And thank you all for listening and participating. And
Thank you. And
sending
we'll
some
see you next
questions.
week. Bye.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.